Imagination. Imagination is my ability to give shape and form to unformed mental energy. Imagination is vision beyond appearances. Imagination is the eye of the consciousness. Imagination gives shape, form, and color to unformed mental energy. Imagination is the projector of your potentials. Imagination releases overloaded mental and emotional energy. Imagination is vision beyond appearances. The source of all is pure spiritual energy. Some call it God. Some call it divine mind. Whatever you call it, you know that it is invisible and that it takes faith to draw from this invisible source to make it visible and useful to you. But there's another gift from God other than faith that is a wonderful spiritual tool in determining what the various potentials are that you should be drawing upon. Imagination is the eye of the consciousness. It is your ability to perceive the limitless possibilities of your good. It is that picture you desire. It is that point of your consciousness where you can see and picture your desire. Even though that which you desire is still invisible, you can see it with your mind's eye. When you combine the use of faith with imagination, you see and know. It is only a matter of time from that point until your desire becomes an object in existence. Imagination also gives shape, form, and color to unformed mental energy. As you perceive that which you need, you actually give it form. You have the ability to shape, form, and then rearrange divine energy until it is the perfect answer you need. Your emotions affect its coloring, and as you change your feelings about your need, you alter its coloring. As a matter of clarification, spiritual energy and mental energy are one and the same. These terms are interchangeable, but to avoid confusion, it is necessary for you to know that divine mind, spirit, thought, substance, Father, spiritual energy, mental energy, God, all of this refers to the one source of all that is. Even stillness and silence are referring to the one source. It is from this source that imagination shapes and forms. It is from this source that strength is drawn. It is from this source that love is drawn. It is from this source that all power vibrates and wisdom expresses. God is so vast yet so simple that he or it remains unnameable. That is why so many definitions are given to the source. Man's imagination is still trying to give form to the formless and definition to the undefinable. The wonderful paradox of it all is that as we draw from the invisible, creating the manifest world, we are being transformed into the invisible fourth dimension ourselves. Now let us consider the imagination as a projector. Assuming that in your mind you have formed a definite, clear thought as to what your need is, your imagination will project it into your life experience. The screen of life is the third dimension. You, as a human being, perceive through your five senses in the third dimension. For you to see and comprehend as a human being, objects need to have height, width, depth, smell, taste, sound, all the properties that can be recorded through your body temple. Of course, as a spiritual being, you pick up far more, but you are still in need of the third dimension screen for most of your living experience. So if there's an object or event which is still in the invisible, you can imagine what it would be like even before it manifests in the third dimension. If you don't like the way it projects, you can easily rearrange it while it's still invisible. If you approve of what you project, you can hold to the image until faith draws it out of the invisible. There's another wonderful function of your imagination that, if properly understood, can serve as a great benefit to your spiritual development. Imagination can serve to release overloaded mental and emotional energy. Sometimes too much information or emotion is poured into your consciousness before you are equipped to handle it. For instance, if you had a near auto accident, your imagination might picture all sorts of sordid scenes even though nothing actually happened. The event might produce more emotional input than your consciousness can handle. Therefore, you may find yourself in the midst of all sorts of wild imaginings. If you are aware of what is taking place, you can release these imaginings, recognizing them for what they are. Unfortunately, some people scare themselves to death, involving themselves into the process of fantasizing or worrying that these are signs of things to come. It is merely the expending of excess emotional energy through imagination. Rightly understood, it is a safety valve that prevents you from going off balance. Wrongly understood, these images can be held through fear and projected into the third dimension. This releasing process that takes place through the imagination can take place while awake or asleep. If you awaken from a nightmare, you can honestly say, "Thank goodness that is out of my system." If the process continues, it is nothing to concern yourself about. The emotion is still spending itself through your imagination. If you bless it and release it, your consciousness will finish with its reevaluation of the incident, and peace will be restored. Your imagination is vision beyond appearances. There is something in you that knows that your possibilities are not limited to what appears before you now. It even knows that your concepts are not the extent of what you understand. It is the Christ in you communicating to you through your imagination. Your imagination is another avenue other than intuition through which God communicates to you. Once again, it is used as a projector, but rather than being projected into the third dimension, it is projected onto the screen of your consciousness. You receive the communication as a vision, a dream, or a revelation. New ways, new insights and clues to your subconscious are revealed to you in symbols through your imagination. The significance of these symbols is revealed as you meet life's challenges and opportunities. As they are unclothed, you will receive directions and experience release at the same time. Your communications from God help to make sense out of a world of limited appearances. A question that arises in regards to the use of imagination is that of outlining. Should you be specific in your imagining so that you get a good, clear picture of what you want? Or should you leave the details to God and work with generalities? There's the concern that being too specific might limit or block what God has in mind for you. Here is the answer to the question. Your greatest need is God's awareness. Every lesser need that appears is part of a divine plan that is unfolding toward the realization of this spiritual awareness. It is perfectly all right to be specific about picturing your good, because you are always willing to alter the picture according to new revelation. If your true motive is spiritual growth, you will never willfully cling to anything that is less than good for you. For instance, if you feel the need to travel across the country and you picture yourself flying in an airplane, you are becoming one with the journey. But if someone hands you free train tickets, you should be open to the incident. You have not failed in the constructive use of your imagination by the mere fact that they were not airplane tickets. There is some reason you are meant to make the journey, and the method of transportation is revealing itself to you. Be receptive to God's will so that you may be led. Just because the picture is altered, you should not be discouraged from ever picturing again. The picturing simulates spiritual activity within, and the new inner activity might trigger greater alternatives in your picturing. Whenever you picture your good, don't limit yourself by being receptive to nothing better. Have the courage to be specific, yet remain open to new guidance and inspiration. Never disqualify your imagination by saying it's only my imagination. It is a spiritual gift from God, which assists you in developing awareness. It is the link between your present consciousness and your undreamed of possibilities. Scripture. God said, "Let us make man in our image." Genesis 1:26. As we have borne the image of the earthly, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. 1 Corinthians 8:4. The Lord searcheth all hearts, and understandeth all the imaginations and thoughts. 1 Chronicles 28:9.